Hello, everybody. Today we're going to take a look at lesson 6.6. So we've been talking about getting y by itself and finding the slope and y-intercept, and now we're actually going to get into graphing these linear functions. And keep in mind, because they are linear, every single graph that you create should make a complete straight line. All right, you shouldn't see any, funky designs, any parabolas, anything like that. It should just be a straight line. So whether you use option 1 or 2, if you end up with something that's not a straight line, you're going to want to go back and check it out. But luckily you have a graphing calculator to help you, which will do a lot of the work for you. And it's a good way to check. All right, that's why it's called a graphing calculator, just for this reason. So make sure you do have your graphing calculator handy, whether you have the handheld or the add-on here. If you need to, you can go to the Google Classroom and there's a link to add this. And I would definitely right-click and pin it so you can easily access it. All right, so let's get started. The first thing that you need to do, regardless of the option that you're going to use, I'm going to show you 2 today, you need to make sure that you get y by itself. All right, that's the most important. So we need to solve for y first, if needed. If it already says y equals, you're good to go. So the first option, I'm going to show you how to create a table and plot points in your calculator. And this can be used for any type of function. We used this a little bit last chapter too. The other method is strictly for linear functions. It's a little faster, but again, you can always use this graphing calculator. All right, so I don't see it looking like this yet. So I'm going to draw my line down under the equal sign. You don't have to if you don't want to, but I think it helps. Your whole goal is to get y by itself. So I'm going to circle the y and anything attached to it. So I'm going to circle that whole negative 2y. And you might say, well, I don't need to do that. I know how to solve. That's fine. All right, but sometimes it's hard to tell what to do. So the negative 2 and y are connected, so they're going to stay together the longest. What we need to get rid of is this 8. Since it's positive, if you want to move it to the other side, we're going to subtract 8. And whatever you do to one side of the line, you want to do to the other. So now I'm left with negative 2y equals. Now order, it's nice to keep order on this one. Think about your formula. Y equals mx plus b. The slope is with your x, and that's what we're going to put first. The y-intercept comes second. So I'm going to put this minus x first. And remember, that's the same as a minus 1x. And then I'll put the minus 8 second. Now, y isn't quite by itself, so we still have a little bit of work to do. I'm going to divide both sides by negative 2. Everything gets divided. And use your calculator if you need to. I know negatives can get a little tricky. So negative 2y divided by negative 2 is just plain old y equals, which means we're done after this step. Right here, a negative divided by a negative is positive, but you can easily check in your calculator. Negative 1 divided by negative 2. I want to leave it as a fraction though. Math, enter, enter. 1/2. All right, the 2 negatives basically cancel out. So it's 1/2 x, and then negative 8 divided by negative 2 is positive 4. And again, you can watch how easy it is to do that in the calculator. Negative 8 divided by negative 2, positive 4. All right, that's my phone. I'm going to pause this quick. Hold on just a second. Get your calculators ready. Okay, sorry for the interruption. All right, so what we just did is we got y by itself. So we subtracted the 8 over. We then divided everything by negative 2. Just remember, this 1 wasn't there. If you see an x with no number, it's a 1. So you need to include that. All right, so typically I would say, let's find the slope and y-intercept and graph from there. Our slope is 1/2. Our y-intercept is positive 4. But we're going to do this method today. Well, this method first. So method 1 is to go to y equals in your calculator. That's the whole point in solving for y. So the y equals is the button. So here's the first part of your equation, and then you're just going to type in the right-hand side. All right, so we're going to go to y equals, and then we're going to type the left, or excuse me, that is left. Type the right. All right, so I'm just going to type in 1/2 x plus 4, and remember to do a fraction. Alpha y equals, enter. So 1/2, hit the right arrow key to get out of there, x, and then plus 4. Now, the cool thing about using the calculator, and I'm going to encourage you to do this, especially if there's a test or quiz or Regents, type it in, even if you do the second method, which I'm sure most of you will like better, but then, because you can look at the graph and make sure that your picture looks like that. All right, so that's what our graph's going to look like. So if you have something else going on, maybe you had an issue with your points. All right, but that's what our graph's going to look like. But we're going to go and create a quick table. Remember, to get to the table, we're going to hit second graph. Now, it doesn't say what our domain is. It doesn't tell us what x values to use. So we're just going to pick some that work. So I'm going to hit second graph. You don't just want to try and freehand. Now, I don't want to use something with fractions, so why don't we just pick, I like to pick a couple in the positives and a couple in the negatives. So why don't we grab -4, 2, -2, 3, (0, 4, which is actually your y-intercept. No surprise that it's the same number that's right here. And let's grab a couple positives. So 2, 5, and 4, 6. And again, it is handy if you leave this open so you know, okay, those are where my points are going to be. So if you have points somewhere else, maybe you should check how you're plotting those. So -4, 2. So that means we're going to go back 4, up 2. And check out the calculator. -4, 2. Yeah, there's a point right there. All right. -2, 3. So back 2, up 3. 0, 4. Which again, your y-intercept, we can tell right from the equation, is 4. It's right there. It's crossing the y-axis. All right, 2, 5, over 2, up 5. And 4, 6. So over 4, up 6. And I just want to point out the similarities by plotting these points. Again, your y-intercept's 4, your slope 1/2, up 1, over 2, up 1, over 2, up 1, over 2. It's not a coincidence, all right? But look at how easy that was. You just get y by itself, which is, I think, usually the trickiest part. Type this into y equals, all right, 1/2 x plus 4. To see which picture is going to look like, you can look there. All right, and notice it continues on forever in both directions, so we'll address that on ours. And then just go to the table and pick some points that are easy. Now, it's best to use a straight edge to draw your line. Okay, you don't really want to freehand. I don't know. I think we have a line somewhere. Let's go to shape. So here's a line. So I'm going to insert a line. Again, it does help if you put more points on. So up 1, over 2. Oops. So I'm just going to draw my line through my points. All right. Again, it might be helpful if you just kept adding more points. So up 1, over 2. Follow that pattern, especially when using the computer to draw the line. So that way you have a nice accurate line. Again, if it was a Regents or something like that, you would want to make sure to put any points you could on there. And to get to the line, I went to shapes right here, insert line. Then you just kind of click and expand it out. All right, now we do need a couple more things on our line. We need to show that it's continuous in both directions. So to do that, we put arrows on the end. So it'll go on forever. And then you want to label the equation. And I always use the new equation, y equals 1/2 x plus 4. So that's method 1. Get y by itself, and then type it into y equals, plot your points, and draw your graph. Option 2 is the one that I use the most. So we're still going to start off the same. You want to get y by itself, but then we're just going to use the slope and y-intercept. So again, I'm going to draw my line down. All right, I want to get y by itself. So I'm going to circle the y and anything attached to it. Now on the first one, the y was the second term. So I had to get rid of the 8. Well, here, the y is the first term. So it does help to circle. All right, so I see that plus 2x. I want to get rid of that. So I'm going to subtract 2x. All right, and again, think of your equation. Y equals mx plus b. Put the x first. So I have negative 3y equals, I'm going to put the negative 2x first and then put the negative 21 after it. So you still have your y equals mx plus b. We're just not quite there yet. We got to get rid of this multiplying by negative 3. So I'm going to divide everything by negative 3. And again, just watch your signs. Negative 3 divided by 3 is positive 1. So you're just left with y equals, which is good. That means you're done. Negative 2 divided by negative 3 in your calculator, just hit second mode to get out of there. See the little quit there? So negative 2 divided by negative 3. Don't want to use that. How am I going to graph that? Math, enter, enter to change it to a fraction. Positive 2/3 x. All right, so don't think that just because you see a whole bunch of negatives that it's definitely negative. They cancel each other out. Now for this one, negative 21 divided by negative 3 is positive 7. So it looked like we were going to have a whole bunch of negatives, but we actually had all positives. All right, so now again, you could go to y equals and type that in and do that, or we're going to use method 2. So you solve for y, then you want to find your slope and your y-intercept from the equation. My slope is always with x, so it's 2/3. My y-intercept is the number by itself, which is positive 7. And it's important to note that this is where you start. So we find 7 on the y-axis up here. All right, it's your y-intercept. So we find positive 7 on the y-axis, and then we use our slope like steps. Since it's positive, we're going to go up 2/3. If it was negative, we'd go down, and you always run to the right. So use it like steps. So from 7, we're going to go up 2/3. Up 2/3. I can't go up any further. It'd be up here. So instead, you can go down 2 and backwards 3. But if you get to this point and you're like, oh, I don't remember if I go left or right or up or down, use the calculator to help you decide. You don't have to do the whole thing with the points, but up 2/3. So it's 2/3 x plus 7. I'm just altering this one to look at the graph. Is yours going that direction? Yeah. It's showing a positive slope going up 2/3, and it's starting at my y-intercept is 7. All right, and then everything else is the same. Now we want to create our line. Nice big line that goes through it. All right, and now we just need to put on our arrows in our equation. Y equals 2/3 x plus 7. I personally like this method better because it's faster, but notice how I quickly was able to put it into my calculator to make sure that it was the same. You could even check out the table if you wanted to make sure that your points were the same. Okay? So you decide. If you like option 1 better, go with it. If you like option 2 better, go with that. All right, but make sure you know what the slope and y-intercept is. All right, I'm going to stop this video. The practice I'm actually going to create a video for as well. But if you have any questions, don't hesitate to email me or stop by Math Lab. Have a great day.